You're listening to Give God 90, where we're not afraid of the tough biblical questions, because we will dig through the language, the culture, and the history to find the truth revealed in the words of our Creator.
I wanna see the light.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for allowing us to be part of your day. My name is Jerry Mitchell. Myra's sitting here next to me, and you didn't pick up on that.
Sorry, I was listening in the other ear too. Hello, everyone. I'm glad that you could join us tonight.
Forgive her. She has been baking fruitcake today. So, and now when I say fruitcake, I don't mean like one. Okay, you do like 10.
Like a dozen at a time.
A dozen at a time? Okay. There's a long story that goes with that maybe one of these days we will share, but she has taken over the fruitcake duties of someone who passed away several years ago, and we're supplying them for her surviving husband. So that is your duty. If you are so inclined, chat's open tonight. If you're new to us, I really am glad you're here tonight, because what we have to talk about is, I think, important. I think it's something everybody needs to know. Don't forget, if you're looking for gifts this season, books make a wonderful gift, and Tradition to Truth, God's Universe, God's Rules, a couple of books you might want to look at. Check out our website. And if you like what you hear, the likes, the shares, that kind of helps other people find this too. Now, before I get started, what I'm going to say might sound political, but it's not. Some of it might sound personal. It's not. I'm coming at this from a more prophetic standpoint, and I want to say this. After listening to some news today, I gotta say it. I've been putting this off, but I gotta say it. As someone who has not only been in the room with then Senator Joe Biden, but as somebody who's spoken to him, as somebody who has insulted him to his face, I'm going to say this. The foreign policy of this administration is so bad, not just for the U.S., but for everyone in the entire world. No foreign policy from the United States right now would be better than what we have. Okay? I hate to say that, but it's true. No foreign policy would be better than what they're trying to fumble around with. And let's be realistic. Everybody deals with foreign policy. Now, I'm not always talking about foreign nations. If someone moves into your neighborhood, or if you move into a neighborhood, you deal with foreign policy. Because you have to figure out what your new neighbors are like. Whether they've moved in next to you or whether you've moved in next to somebody else, you have to figure out what your new neighbors are like. How are you going to get along? And it's really, really sad, but this current administration has just completely not only done away with everything that the previous administration had done, but they have done away with everything going back to the 70s. Okay? We can expect polyester leisure suits and disco to come back at any time. That's how bad it is. And in fact, it's worse than that. You know, right now, the United States is the redneck of the world. We're the ones that nobody wants to live next to. We're the ones right now under this administration. You know, if we wanted to find a car, we'd have to mow our grass. Okay? I'm just saying. We treat the rest of the world like everybody's more stupid than we are, and we are the ones that are creating the problems. Yes, I said that to the entire world that listens to us, because we go out and there are people around the world that listen to this. And right now, the United States is the one that's causing the problems. And that's what happens when someone with no moral perceptions is in charge of a country. Biden treats every other nation like the neighbor who's the biggest redneck bigot that just moved into the neighborhood. It's a complete disgrace to the United States. And it's a complete disgrace to the world. And it's sad to say, but folks, if you live in the United States, you've got about a year to get involved. And let's just face it, you've got about a year to be an influence on your local politics. If you live outside of the United States, you've got about a year to be an influence into the folks that you influence, so that they can influence the politics of the United States, so that we can stop the ignorance and the madness that's going on in Washington, D.C. right now. Because they are just completely stupid. They're about to start World War III, and I don't think anybody wants that. Just saying. If you want to comment on any of that or anything else we talk about tonight, the chat room is open if you have a free Spreaker account. So, that being said, we're going to get into what I want to look at, and that is to deal with what is a blessing. And there's something that you hear me say typically at the end of all of these podcasts: many blessings, right? It's a salutation that I learned a long time ago. I think I was 6 or 7 or 8 years old the first time I heard it. The person that I heard that from, I think, understood what it meant. I knew this older gentleman for a long time. I think he actually got it. He grasped that concept. But it took me a long time to figure that out. I'm just going to say, knowing what I know now, looking back, it took me a long time to understand what he meant. That salutation has been used by different people throughout. Well, I should say it this way: it's been used by different people that I've heard throughout my life. And after I really understood what it meant, I kind of liked it. That's why I adopted it. And we're going to look at it a little bit tonight. With so many religious leaders today spreading a prosperity gospel, a lot of people have come to think that being blessed is sort of like being rich, right? The problem is the pastors who are promoting this are the same ones who are going to tell you that if you give them all your money, then you're going to get rich. Well, that kind of sounds backwards, doesn't it? Yeah, I know. It's kind of counterintuitive. The hypocrisy is, I'm going to say it's amazing while it's ignorant at the same time. Sadly, there are churches out there that have been using this tactic for far too long. They want to say, you have to give like the Israelites gave. You have to give so much. We need to tell you to stop. If you remember when they were in the wilderness and they needed things for the tabernacle, and people just kept giving and giving and giving. And finally they said, you got to stop. You're giving way too much. Well, the problem is the modern churches never tell you to stop. They just want you to keep giving and keep giving and keep giving. While some people have really been very blessed by giving money, property, or other things of monetary value, the message of the prosperity gospel seems to be, if you give everything you have to some religious institution, you're going to get rich. Well, the question is being rich a blessing? Now think about that for a minute. The perception of a rich person is someone who has a lot of money, right? We see them living in a big house, driving a nice car maybe, eating at fancy restaurants. But what we don't see is how many people they have working for them. We don't see the people they employ to clean and maintain their houses. We don't see how many people they employ to be able to maintain the lifestyle they have. We don't usually know how hard the rich person works to be able to afford their lifestyle, while at the same time making sure that their employees can afford their lifestyle. All we want to look at is watching them enjoy, or what we think is they are enjoying what seems to be an easy ride in life. We don't see how they need to negotiate with all the people who want to take advantage of them because they think that a rich person can afford to be frivolous. Now, I can guarantee you that a rich person did not become rich by being frivolous and just throwing money away. It just doesn't work that way. We don't see how they treat their closest employees like family, because the closest employees that they have deserve their trust. We don't see the responsibility and the anguish when a difficulty causes them to terminate a deal, and the possibility of people losing their employment as a result of that. When a wealthy person is bidding on a job acquisition, let's say they're doing something that they do to make money. If they're a contractor or even a jeweler, they have typically people working for them. And if they're negotiating for something, they have to include in that negotiation their employees and how this is going to benefit their employees, because it is the employees who benefit the employer as well. It's not just a one-way street. Now, unfortunately, we don't see these things because we choose not to see them. All we want to look at is the easy life that they have, or that we think they have. And many of us have come to associate being blessed with having everything we want. Money usually tops that list, right? If I have all the money in the world, what would I do? It's kind of like the story where the fellow pulls up in the fancy sports car and he gets out, and the man says, I wonder how many people you could have fed with the money that you've wasted on that car. And the man says, well, I don't know how many people I could have fed with a cheaper car, but I know that the people who mined the metal to put in this car, I'm feeding their families when I bought it. The people who mined the silicone for the glass that's in the windows, I'm feeding those folks. The people who put the chips together in the computer system in this car, I'm feeding those people. The people who harvested the rubber for the tires. I'm feeding those people. The people who mind all the other things that went into this car. The people who worked at the factories to put it together. The people who did this. The people who did that. The people on the sales floor. I'm feeding that family. Now I don't know how many people, if I'd have bought a cheaper car, but when I bought this one, I know I'm feeding a lot of people. You see, we don't look at everything. We just want to look at the easy life. We want to see the easy way. But can money buy happiness? Well, I would really like to find the answer to that question. In fact, if each of you would just donate to us $1 million apiece, we will research this and get back to you. Yeah, you know I'm joking, right? Okay. You know I'm joking here, okay? But really, if you feel the need... No, I'm still kidding. I'm still kidding. Of course I'd like to know if money can buy happiness. I think each of us would like to be able to research that answer, right? Think about this. What does it really mean to be blessed? Have you ever wondered what a real blessing is? Now, a few years ago, we all, how can I say this without giving it away? We took some friends of ours out and purchased an item for them. And the question is, are you blessing us with this item? And it's like, well, if you want to see it that way, yeah, but not really. And you'll see what I mean in a minute. Because the stuff is not where the blessing is. Now, it might sound a little funny, right? But I want you to follow along. We're going to start in Genesis chapter 1, 26 through 31. We've read this before, but not quite like what we're going to look at.
Then God said, "Let us make human beings in our image and likeness, and let them rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky. Let them rule over the tame animals, over all the earth, and over all the small crawling animals on the earth." So God created human beings in his image. In the image of God, he created them. He created them male and female. God blessed them and said, "Have many children and grow in number. Fill the earth and be its master. Rule over the fish in the sea and over the birds in the sky. Rule over every living thing that moves on the earth." God said, "Look, I have given you all the plants that have grain for seed, and I have given you all the trees whose fruits have seeds in them. They will be food for you. I have given all the green plants to all the animals to eat. They will be food for every wild animal, every bird of the air, and every small crawling animal." And it happened. God looked at everything he had made, and it was very good. Evening passed and morning came. This was the sixth day.
Now, a lot of people have read this passage, especially verse 28, and said we were commanded to have children, but the problem is it's not really a command. Okay? It's actually one of the sources where we get the phrase children are a blessing. But if you look at the way it's written, in English it says, "He blessed them and said." And while it's technically and grammatically correct, we need to remember that this is the English translation. But when we read it in Hebrew, it reads more like, "And God blesses them as he is saying, be fruitful and become many." The word fruitful is actually really there. Okay? Just saying. It's not You have to procreate. That would be a command. You must do this. What he's actually saying is he's blessing them by saying you have the opportunity, or more appropriately, as the Almighty, as the Creator speaking, I am giving you the wonderful opportunity to reproduce and become many. It's a gift. It's not a command, it's a gift. We need to pay attention to the way the original sentence is constructed. And we're going to look at another passage, and as we look at this, I hope you get the understanding that there's more to being blessed than you think. Now, this comes from Deuteronomy 33, 24 through 29.
Moses said this about the people of Asher. Asher is the most blessed of the sons. He should be his brother's favorite. Let him bathe his feet in olive oil. Your gates will have locks of iron and bronze. You will be strong as long as you live. There is no one like the God of Israel. He rides through the skies to help you. He rides on the clouds in his majesty. The everlasting God is your place of safety. His arms will hold you up forever. He will force your enemy out ahead of you. He will say, destroy the enemy. The people of Israel will lie down in safety. Jacob's spring is theirs alone. Theirs is a land full of grain and wine. There the skies drop their dew. Israel, you are blessed. No one else is like you. You are a people saved by the Lord. He is your shield and helper. He is your glorious sword. Your enemies will be afraid of you. You will walk all over the holy places.
Now, in English, we don't get the difference in the language that Moses uses here. There's two words that are typically translated as blessed from the Hebrew. One is Baruch, the other is Asher, or Esher. Now, if you're paying attention to that, you'll realize that when he says Asher is the most blessed of the sons, does it sound like Asher? Does Asher sound like Asher?
Yes.
There's a reason for that. It's a play on words. It's actually two different words spelled exactly the same way, except when they added the vowels. Then you get the difference. And it's kind of interesting. And it's a little bit radical at the same time. There's a lot of Hebrew phrases that we look at. Adam is sort of a play on words. Man, Adam, made from Adamah, right? Made from dirt, ground. In Hebrew, you can have an apple, which is the apple that we think of, or you can have a potato, which is a ground apple, an apple from the ground. Okay, it's just the way the language works. It's what they call it. Now, before I completely tell you the difference in this, I want you to remember, if you can think back about a feeling or an emotion that you had when someone that you loved offered you something of great value. Now, I'm not talking about money. I'm not even talking about a car or a house, nothing like that. Something of great value that was worth more to you than a large bank account, a large home, a fancy car. Maybe, something of great value to you from someone you loved was a hug when you needed it. Maybe it was the right words of comfort when you needed to hear it. That. whatever it was. It's not something you can. It's not something you can take hold of. It's not something that you can put in the bank. It's not something you can sell for profit. But it's something of even more value. The other thing you need to remember, now remember that feeling, and remember that emotion is spirit. What you feel, what your emotion is, you exhale. When you breathe out that feeling of complete joy from something that somebody has just given you that is great, holds a greater value for you than money can buy, you're releasing that spirit of joy, that complete satisfaction that everything is all right in your life, even if it's just for a short period of time. When Moses writes that Asher is the most blessed of all the sons, that play on words, Asher is the name of the son, but Asher is that feeling of joy, and it's often considered and translated as joy or happy or blessed. Moses writes that Asher is the most blessed, the most Baruch of all the sons. And in verse 29 he writes, Israel, you are Asher, you are happy because no one is like you. And you are a people saved in Yehovah. You're a people. You're a people which are saved, and the word there is the plural of another word we have for, guess what? Yeshua. Because nobody's like you. And if I dared take the time, I could go into that for a long lesson, but I'm not going to. I have other things to get to. You're a people which are saved in Yeshua. You are happy. You are blessed because you are saved in your Creator. The tribe that's the most blessed is actually named Joyous, because Joyous carries a spirit. We just had a little invite a while ago for someone named Asher, didn't we?
We did.
His name means joyous. You know, in Psalm 1:1, it says, happy is the person who doesn't listen to the wicked. He doesn't go where sinners go. He doesn't do what bad people do. Asher is the person who doesn't listen to the wicked. How about that? If we read the Beatitudes and we look at it in the Gospel of Matthew from Hebrew, of which there are several copies known now, think about this. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Let me read that another way. Happy are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Happy are they that mourn, for they will be comforted. The Hebrew Gospel of Matthew uses Asher. Happy, joyous are the poor in spirit. And that might sound a little odd until you understand what that really means. Happy, joyous are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. The simplest way to tell the difference between those two Hebrew words, Baruch and Asher, is this. Now, it doesn't always fit, but most of the time it does. Baruch is a blessing that is offered. It's given. And you are giving, what you are giving, I should say, is that feeling of joy when you give someone else. And every Hebrew blessing begins that way. Baruch atah Yehovah Eloheinu melech haolam. Blessed are you, Yehovah our God, King of the universe. Every blessing begins that way. We're giving joy back to our Creator. Now, on the other side of that, a share is when someone receives that feeling because someone else has offered it to them. Think about that. Let's go back up there. Happy, joyous are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. What's being given to you? The kingdom of heaven is being offered to you. Does that make you joyous? It should. Joyous are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. What's being offered to you? Comfort. That should. Now you're not going to be like happy, 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 joy, 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 right? That's different. What you're looking for in this situation is not the celebratory happy birthday type thing. What you're looking for is a joyous feeling that you get when somebody gives you something of such great value that there's no way to measure that value, whatever that might be. You don't need to offer someone something physical. You don't need to offer something they can put in the bank. You don't need to offer something they can hold in your hand. When our Creator blessed Adam and his wife, saying, "Be fruitful and become many," what was offered to them was far more valuable than any money could measure, right? When we offer someone a real blessing, it can't be measured. When we offer someone that spirit of joy, you really can't measure that in this physical planet. I'm not even sure you could measure that in the spirit world. I'm not sure you should be able to measure it anywhere. Because that feeling, there just shouldn't be any top or bottom to it. I know, I can't remember where it says where it's shaken down or pressed down, shaken, and still running over. Well, no matter how much you put in, no matter how much you push it down, no matter how much you try to make it fit, it's still going to run over no matter what you put it in. That's what we're looking for. Blessings are far, far more than just physical stuff. Because the physical stuff, well, you can measure it, and it's going to eventually rot, decay, and go away. A real blessing is immeasurable because it will never go away. That's why I say at the end of these podcasts, we offer you many blessings. Something that never stops. Something that just keeps going. Something immeasurable that you can take with you, and no matter how much you give of that, how much of that you give away, it's still full. Now, when I began Give God 90, I didn't have any idea where it was going to go. I didn't realize, 5 years ago, 6 years ago now? I don't know how long we've been doing this.
Something like that.
I didn't realize we'd be sitting here, doing what we're doing. Had no clue. But, today we reach a lot of people all over the world. And a lot of people have been affected by this. A lot of people have taken this. I see the things that we have put out used in a lot of ministries in a lot of places. And that's a good thing. Because that means that something we put out means something to somebody else and they've picked up on it. Now, I kind of like to think that it's all because everything that we try to teach is to get you to live the way your Creator designed you to live. It's that simple. You know, I don't know what we could say, what we could do to make that more convincing. But I like to think that the message of learning to live the way you're designed to live and then being able to understand how to live that lifestyle is something that people are craving in the world today. And there's obviously a lot of people craving that in the world today. There are people, I just read a article from one of the Israeli papers, and they did an article about how people, especially Christianity, is leaving the Middle East. People are giving up on religion, but they're not giving up on their Creator. They're actually embracing that. They're just saying, you know what, this religion isn't working anymore. We've got to abandon the man-made doctrines and go back to doing what the Bible says. And I think that's a win. I'll take that. I don't know if I had anything to do with it, but, you know, if one person heard it, I'll take that as a win. We've got to offer people something more substantial and permanent than a Christmas present or stuff can give. The only thing that we have to be able to offer that is a real, true blessing. Something that when you breathe out that spirit of joy, it affects the people around you. Now, if you need some help trying to understand that, I encourage you to visit givegod90.com and see what that's all about, because that is a good place to start. A blessing isn't stuff. A blessing is far, far more than stuff. It's a feeling that you can't measure. And the more you give that feeling away, the more you get back. Don't let the prosperity gospels fool you. You can't get rich by giving money away. You can't get rich by hoarding it either, by the way. You've got to make it work for you. So, did you have anything you wanted to add to all of that?
Well, I hope everyone feels the Creator putting a blessing in them this week.
Amen. Until Monday, right?
Yes.
Here we go again. Many, many blessings, everyone. We'll see you then.